Sometimes I think about starting each podcast with me singing. Just like that would just immediately turn people off.
This was not wilted when I cut it, just so you know. Well, it wilted so fast. I thought, what?
I love fresh mint.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Mm. Oh yeah, that's the best iced tea around.
Yes.
That is the best.
Ginger peach iced tea.
All right. Well, I got a couple notes here. Looks like you got a couple notes.
I have a couple notes.
Justin,
too.
do you know what today's topic is?
You know what? I know it's attraction. That's one thing.
What attracts us to
All
it.
right.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think we're at cruising altitude. Should we jump right in?
Jump right in.
All right. Welcome to the Tea with Fran podcast. Fran, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Justin?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm okay. As you're gonna hit the same answer every time until we get rolling. Then I get good. Then I'm in it good.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, we're on our way up.
Tired. It's been long. I've been a lot of sun.
Yes.
And to get more. It is Memorial, so it is Memorial Day.
That's right.
So
The sun is interesting because it can charge you up,
Yes.
but can also drain you.
mm-hmm.
It's a strange thing. Depends on the person.
Yeah.
I like to be charged up and then drained.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, who doesn't like that? Fran, everyone is just enjoying hearing from you.
Good.
And Justin, they're actually happy to hear from you as well.
Oh wow! I thought I was gonna get voted off the island.
Good.
I figured I'd be first to go.
You're a keeper.
No. Now that you have mastered the audio, everyone enjoying it. I even had someone tell me that they had to catch up on the show, but they got teary-eyed while listening. And I didn't ask what part, maybe a little mystery to it makes it nice.
Yes.
But I thought that was really telling as to, what we're doing here. So
I'd like to know. That would be nice.
I'll see if I can find out.
Okay.
for us.
Great.
Were they driving when they cried? I don't want people driving and crying.
No.
I think that's like drinking. That's almost as bad as drinking and driving.
No.
Vision gets blurry.
No. She works from home
Okay.
and has kids, so was a little backlog. But said that really enjoying. Said looking forward to future episodes as
Excellent.
well. So
All right.
we'll keep it going.
Good.
So you want to start with some Franmail?
Yeah. Well, no.
Or do you want to get right into it? All right.
Yeah, I'm very anxious to
Yeah.
talk about the attraction.
So yeah, we're going to talk about attraction today. Before I pass it over to you, I looked up Webster Dictionary
Good.
to see what the squares are, defining attraction as. And 1A is the act, process, or power of attracting.
Yes.
And then 1B is personal charm.
Ooh.
Oh, I like that one. That's very nice.
So attraction. Fran,
Okay.
let's hear it.
Well, the obvious is physical beauty.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So we don't want to have a real standard for what we consider attraction. It's different for everyone. The first thing that attracts me to someone is a smile.
So simple.
It is. It's a simple thing, but it doesn't cost you anything. And sometimes it changes that person's life that day and gives them a little gift. And they go and they smile at someone else. And it's a ripple effect that's very, very nice. It can be a kind gesture, too. If somebody does something that you're so unexpected, even opening the door, people don't do that much anymore, but they used to, or helping you with a chair, or helping you to carry anything that's heavy. And as one gets older, there are more people that seem to say, oh, can I help you with that? I always say, yes, you can. I would love it. But, there's something else that's going on, and it's the deeper thing. And that's what I really want to talk about.
Well, we're here to listen.
All right. There's something that I've been thinking about a lot this week, and it has to do with a little girl that I met in Minneapolis many years ago. When we moved to Minneapolis, we moved into an older house with leaded windows. It had actually 3 floors in it and 5 bedrooms. But we were next door to a stucco kind of house with, it was a 2-story house. And I had not met these people. I was in the grocery store, and all of a sudden, I had my boys with me, and a lovely lady said, "Oh, I think you're my new neighbor." And I turned around, and here was this very lovely woman, blonde, blue eyes, tall, thin, and sitting in her cart was a little girl that might have been 8 or 9 months old. She was sitting up.
Mm-hmm.
She threw her arms out to me and said, "Mom, mom, 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 mom." And she just reached for me. So I reached over and I said, "It's okay." And they said, "Sure." Picked her up and held her. Her mother could not believe it. She said, "I've never seen her do this." And so, I held her for a little while, and my sons were looking at her like, "What is she doing? She's our mom." So I tried to give her back to her mother, and she held on to me, something fierce, and she had to peel her off her, and then she cried. We went ahead and did our grocery shopping. All right, days passed, and then I was out in the yard, and her mother was giving her a push outside on, I think she was in a little stroller of some kind, and once again she saw me. And her arms went out, and it was mom, 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 mom. And I said, "Is it all right if I pick her up?" And her mother said yes. And so we started to talk, and she told me a little bit. They were from Norway. She's the one who gave me my recipe for Norwegian cookies.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. But this little girl wanted me to be with her all the time. And we were in Minneapolis almost 2 years, and they moved. I think they may have stayed another year, and so I got to see her longer. But every time she saw me, she wanted to be in my arms. On the day that they moved, she was screaming and holding her arms out as they put her in the car. She wanted to stay with me, and I have never been able to be in touch with them. I never got a forwarding address of any kind. And now this week, it's as though this little girl, I'm sure she has blue eyes and blonde hair, is out there. And I so wish I could know her now.
I wish we could have tracked her down and brought her in like those, what is it?
Well, Fran, you're never going to believe it, but
yeah.
So
that is powerful.
So what is it? It's not the physical. We're not talking about these obvious things that happened.
Yeah.
But there is another attraction.
There's an energy, it's a presence, it's something you feel, yeah.
Well, have you ever met somebody, maybe at a party or wherever, and when you start to talk to them, you suddenly realize you feel like you've always known them?
Mm-hmm.
Always known them? Because I still remember when Dan and I had our very first date. We had hot chocolate. We're sitting in the car talking. It was one of those little drive-ins where they come out to your car and then they bring your hot chocolate. And we were sitting there, and while we are talking, I suddenly felt as though I had come home. It was that feeling that you have been like away for a long time, and you are finally home. And I knew that my whole life had changed that night, that day. And we talked for 3 hours. Then he took me back to the Zeta house. But I knew that there was something there. But I've never been able to put this whole story together. Have you ever had anything like this happen to you?
Yes. Yes, I have. I've met, different people, but yeah, definitely have had like an eerie kind of instant connection, and then getting to know someone, you're just like, wow, like I feel the same way, like I think I agree. And obviously not everything lines up, but I would say I have had that.
Yeah. So it's almost like, I'm going to call it this, spirit family.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah,
something like that. Adam said it's soul recognition. Adam and I were talking about this topic this week because I keep thinking about this child. And the sad thing is I don't remember her name either. But she really thought I was her mom.
Deep down, she remembers you.
And she thought I was her mom.
Yeah, I bet if you two were put in the same room unknowingly,
Yes.
you would still find like yourself talking. Like she would still
Yes.
want to talk to you. I bet
Right.
that attraction of just wanting to be near someone, I bet that would still exist.
Well, earlier on when we started this, I was telling you that I always feel like your body is your little car that you run around in, but the real you just uses it.
Yeah.
The real you is there, but the real you doesn't fit in your car anyway. It's bigger than that. It comes out from there, so that when you're sitting near someone, in a sense, you're touching them because their energy field is also touching yours. Have you ever sat beside somebody and you thought, I think I need to move?
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
That's like, I mean, it's interesting as far as like when I'm around people, like I'll notice when people are like have like watered down personalities, when they try to act different and this, and it's just like I always want to bring out the best in people, and if people, that's all I want to be surrounded by is like the best person, the best version of you. So like there's certain people where you can tell they're trying to be something else, or like you feel like there's like a tension and you don't know what it is, and you're just being, you're yourself, and I know right away I'm like I gotta leave, like I'll just get up and go.
It's something in this energy field that's very interesting. And it brings me to this fascinating thing. We have a Yorkie poo named Lizzie.
Got two. Well, you saw Lily. Lily was in the last episode.
You saw Lily.
She's white. And we have Lizzie. She's black.
And she's black.
Yeah.
Well, Lizzie is very happy to meet almost everyone, almost everybody. And she has this thing with Kevin.
Yes, I knew exactly where you
and
were
it
going.
That is the only one that this happens with. She adores him. And of course, we're kind of jealous of Kevin because she would leave with him and never look back.
I always say is mutual between Lizzie and I.
But what is it what is so different about you for her? There is something about the energy.
I think it's just they're both the same. Thick black hair. Just she's like dad.
Oh, you think it's the physical attraction?
Yeah, she might have a physical attraction.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever told you, Fran, but you know how Lizzie often pees when she sees me?
Yes, she does.
I also do the same when I see her. It's just I just can't help it. I just can't help it.
There is something going on. But
that'd be a terrible world to live in. You get excited, just piss your pants. Oh,
it would be tough.
Be hard. Depends.
Yeah.
Business would be booming.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very curious about what attracts you to people.
I think what you said is like a smile. Like I truly think like seeing someone like when like the way someone looks at you tells a lot. Like the eyes you get from people. Like I'm a sucker for eyes, and that's probably like it's overall like I don't know. You can feel something with like with eyes and a true smile.
Is it like transference of thought?
Yeah, you kind of
because it's not just is it blue eyes, green eyes, brown eyes?
No, I don't. When it comes to eyes, I don't discriminate. I've been with blue, black, green, yellow, blind. I don't know. Lazy. Yeah, lazy.
So you are picking up
on the look. It's
the thought.
Yeah, there's something transferred with the eyes that's not verbal.
Okay. And so that's your first attraction.
Yeah, 100%. That's the first thing you notice. I always look someone in the eye whenever I first meet them, whether it's, just anything, business, relationships, out drinking at a bar. It's, when you introduce yourself to somebody, it's their eyes.
Interesting. Yeah, eyes.
And I've seen some eyes that are pretty dead, and I've seen eyes that have become soulless over time. Like you notice like people change, and you can see it in their eyes. You can see a lot of change in someone's eyes.
Well, isn't it the eyes are the window to the soul? Isn't that the saying?
Yeah, that's the saying. What is it that attracts you, Kevin?
Oh man, I've been trying to think of this while Justin was answering. I don't know if it almost sounds cheesy. I believe just being on the same wavelength as someone else.
It's that mental thing.
Yeah.
Which is energy.
Yeah.
Thought transference.
Yeah, I guess it all goes hand in hand. I exist at a certain volume, and I do enjoy being around people that also are at that same volume. Justin and I have been best friends a long time, and I think that,
too long.
Yeah, this is the final chapter.
Why
of
you
the
say my
friendship.
best? Maybe I have a better friend than you, Kevin.
Yes, of course.
Friend.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, just people that are just on that same wavelength. Not to get too personal. I remember I met someone a while ago, and she was very nice, but she was so quiet, and it was like I just know it could never work for me to be with someone like that because it's just too not muted, but I'm at this frequency and they're at this frequency.
Yes.
So it's important for me to surround myself with people similar frequencies. But of course, it's important to be around people that challenge you or are different, all that good stuff.
Well, I recently read that in Japan, that doctors are giving a prescription to tell people to go take a walk in the forest because
cool.
the energy that comes off the trees and the plants there, that energy is nourishing to your field of energy.
It's so important to get outside and walk.
Yeah,
It
and another
is.
thing
It
that
is.
it's,
Yes.
I mean, I worked with one of the jobs I worked with. I became really close with one of the girls I worked with. We still hang out this day. She always said, she's like, it's important to like walk through the grass like bare feet. She's like, my mom used to always say that, and she's like, I get it because it kind of keeps you grounded, gives you a little bit of energy. And like anytime like I'm walking somewhere, I'm always like, you can go a whole day just being on pavement, right? You wake up, you're on a hardwood floor, you go and get in your car, you drive, go into your office, you go
That's
from
right.
asphalt to concrete, then back home. It's like important. Like any chance I see where I can cut through and walk through the grass, I'm gonna do it. Just because it's a little softer on the knees too. I'm getting older, gotta take care of my body. But overall, I take sometimes it's like worth taking a little bit of a longer trip if you're cutting through the grass.
I love that. I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like lost in thought over
Well,
here.
that's all right because I think this is something that people need to think about because we don't see this on TV. People don't talk about these things. And I think that we are reaching a point where we're understanding more about energy, the force of energy. And it's much more important in our lives than we recognize.
I just want to mention, a big message from you is always to know who you are.
Yes.
Which I would say is just so critical in living a happy life. And I wonder how many people actually know. It's a whole other topic, but knowing your energy is so important, and knowing how to read other people's energy. I think
I walk into a room sometimes. I know I have a very strong, like I just have a very loud presence. Sometimes a little too loud, but I know that going wherever I go. Like I don't know, it's just
you change the room.
Yeah, I can change a room, and then sometimes I'm in rooms that I'm like, I can't change this room, and I'm good with it. I'm okay with it. I like the room. Then sometimes you go in a room and it's like, I want to change this room, but there's no force in nature that can. I need to leave.
Yes.
That's where those feelings, your gut feelings, like not having a good time.
Yeah.
You got any advice off the top of your head for listeners out there to understand their energy?
Well, first of all, they need to wake up and realize who they are. Yeah. That's the first thing. That's why we started by talking about the fact that there's only one you, how important it is that you're here. You came at the right time for history, and your job is to become fully you, not anyone else. And, that's kind of hard because of the way schools are. And living with your parents and their rules and who they are. But once you are a certain age and you are not under that umbrella, then your job is to be totally you. Don't let other people change you. I have had friends who, no matter who they are with, they sort of pretend to like the things that person likes.
Like a chameleon.
Yes, and they're always changing. And they're not being who they are. And I always feel that they just never realized who they are, the value of being yourself. That's why you're here. And we want you to be authentic.
Authentic and unapologetic. Right?
All of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's where I always say, like, good thing about me is I'm honest, bad thing about me is I'm honest.
I love honesty.
And it hurts sometimes, but you need it. Like, you need to, like, why beat around the bush?
Exactly.
Go right through it.
And your very close friends will accept your honesty, because with it, there also are those days where everything's just perfect. And then when they have to tell you something, you sit there and you think, oh, really? Okay. Think about that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, you weren't being true. And people tend to do this because they want to be liked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is. Quite sad when you watch people sacrifice themselves to please others that really aren't worth pleasing.
That's right.
That's sad.
I think you have a good point too, as far as like, you want to be like in life, you want to be challenged. And I feel like most of like my friends and my good relationships, they're the ones who kind of will call me out on my shit. That will put me in my place. Like they want to better you. Like, hey man, like I don't want someone always agreeing with me. I don't want someone to yes.
Absolutely.
Because how are you gonna grow? You're just gonna be stuck in where you are.
Yes.
You want to, you want to pass. I don't know. It's just that frustrates me.
Anybody that would always agree with you, they're not being authentic.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. I mean, I say stuff that isn't agreeable, and I'm like, someone needs to call me out on it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
But see, that's what is going on, and that's why we need to just like wake everyone up. I wish there was a way to wake them up.
The Tea with Fran podcast, found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram. Yeah, we're trying to wake them up.
We can create a drug, a good drug, though. You know, you gotta figure it out.
It's this iced tea. I think will wake people up.
Ginger peach.
It's the best.
It is good.
Especially
little hint of mint.
Yes, nice.
I feel like you could probably make a good mojito.
Oh, I think we could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always have mint. You have all fresh ingredients.
Absolutely.
After the episode.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested in hearing about Franmail.
Well, before we get there, I wanted just a couple notes here on attraction.
Yes.
Just take this and make sense of it. I just have gut, mind, heart. What do you follow for attraction, or is it just a blend of all three? Trust your gut, listen to your heart, follow your mind.
You know how I told you about the inner voice, and every day I start the day that way. You just have to be really still, because inside you there is this inner voice. You won't hear it out loud, but somehow it will communicate to you about people, about everything, about which way to go on a trip, wherever you're going. This inner voice seems to know everything. So when you meet somebody and you are overwhelmed by the physical attraction, you need to spend some time thinking about what the inner voice wants to tell you, because it's always listening. Always.
Now, what would the inner voice? The inner voice, your gut feel? Is that more?
Well, it's wherever the soul resides. Mm-hmm. Where in you? Is it in your heart? Is it in your gut?
Yeah.
When something's going wrong, I feel it in my gut first. I can just know it. Like, wait a minute, something is really wrong here. I just know it, and then I have to find it. But this is all stuff we can't see and measure and, put your hand right on it. But it's within you. And it's part of this thing called you. Mm-hmm. So all the things that might attract the person, maybe it was you smell the shampoo in the hair or soap. There's some people that use really fragrant soap, and every time you smell it, you think of them. But something that drew you to this person, if you really want to know if this is the right person for you, you absolutely have to be in touch with your inner self.
Yeah.
You have to be.
I like how you brought up smell. I feel like smell's like a big, I'm not saying, that's like a game changer, but when I had COVID last March in 2021, I lost my smell for almost a full year.
Oh boy.
So when I would be in bed with, a woman, I couldn't smell her hair. I'm like, it's just, everyone smelled the same. My cologne, her perfume, everything smelled the same. So you do lose, I felt very disconnected at times with people. I'm like, there was something missing. And that fragrance, it is a real
It's
thing.
part of their identity.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
You can't know someone without. It's difficult to know someone without knowing like all
Yeah.
the way your senses pick
And I
up.
didn't know
on them.
I didn't know what I smelled like. I remember what I used to smell like. Didn't even pick up that. Like, so like I'm putting on deodorant. Like I'm just like I'm making sure. I'm like I can't forget. Like, you know, I could smell like an onion patch and I have no idea.
Yeah. It is interesting about smells and fragrances and what that does. And it does, like, it helps in what you remember. Memories can have fragrances to them, just like music has fragrances and sounds and feelings and memories and just a certain song, place where you were, the beach.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I guess you know this isn't necessarily a science podcast, so we couldn't explain pheromones.
No, I know.
To even ourselves, but it's all part of that attraction.
It
and
is.
That's interesting what you said.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you say it was gut, heart, and mind, I'm big into, I think the gut feeling, I go with more the gut. And I've made decisions where I feel like it's from the heart, where I've jumped into something. And I feel like, because I feel like that's what I want, but it's not known it. But like if I have a gut feeling about something, I'm pretty confident in that decision.
That is
You
gonna
trust
be
your gut more than you trust your heart?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And then
My mind, well, my mind's number one, but my gut probably makes a good percentage of the decisions. But like I've made decisions not with my gut, and those are the ones that I kind of look back on. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Where if I make a gut call and I stick it out, I'm like, this worked. Sometimes, but you roll that dice. But like usually, you know, when it works, it works. When it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, what you have to sacrifice. But the heart can, like, you know, I don't know. I feel like you put a lot of pressure into thinking it's gonna be a certain way, and it's not. The gut will, you know how it is then, and you hope it stays that and grows. So
One last question before we get over to the Franmail. What are repulsive things for you, Fran, that you see someone do that, you know, we're talking about all this attraction. I always like talking about the opposite of something. What do you find repulsive in, I don't know, in another individual? What would it be?
The first thing is violence.
Yeah.
Someone getting hurt. Someone who's unkind. Somebody who's, even anger can make me back up. Not that, I mean, anger is a natural thing. You can be angry about things you need to be angry about. But when you watch it and you see it get out of control, and then what do? How do you diffuse it and help that person? That really makes me afraid.
Yeah.
But you know, you said something, both of you talked about the mind. And that's a very interesting topic because do you know the difference between the mind and the brain? What is that?
Oh boy. The brain's the scientific term. The mind is what we believe, you know, what we use our like thought process. And I don't know.
What do you think it is? What's the difference?
I feel as though the brain is the hardware and then the mind is the software you're running. So
what he said,
you know, your brain is operating, or, you know, running the rest of your body systems and, you know, understanding the data that's coming in, but then your mind is really kind of making sense of what to do with that data.
It's your unique software, because everyone has a brain. Mm-hmm. The mind is different.
Soul software.
We figured it out.
Soul software, yeah.
Soul software. That's a good way to put it. Because there are so many stories about people who were like had near-death experiences, and they watched the whole thing. Their mind was not involved, and they had a terrible injury. There was a problem, but they even went down the hall and looked around at other things, came back and remembered the entire conversation that the doctors had as they were working on them. So that is
thank you.
That's the mind.
Crazy.
The mind is not contained in just the brain. It can go places. And I think sometimes that's why, you know, you really are thinking about somebody and they call you. Your mind, yes.
I'm on a I have one friend who we're on the very similar frequency, and we talk probably like once a month, but we're always, every time I call her or she calls me, it's always like it's like, what the hell? How is this like? It's always like in line, which is it's cool. It's good to
Yes.
good to have that.
Yes.
I was just at a party last night, and I was telling a buddy of mine, I was like, yeah, I haven't seen so and so. I tried calling him. We were playing phone tag. It's
Yes.
like, I hope he's able to come, join us tonight or whatever. And then 35 seconds, he came walking in. And I was like, there he is. Like, it was.
That's called a coincidence, Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay, he knew he had an invite to the party. He was going to show up anyway.
It was an unknown if they were going to arrive. It's just the fact that
Yes.
it happened when it did.
Yeah.
Coincidence or not, it was cool.
It's wonderful. Well, I had this friend who moved away from Vernon, and I have been missing her this week too. And so I tried her email. Well, it bounced back. She doesn't have the same email. And I didn't have a way of finding her. And I was looking for her phone number, couldn't find it. She called this morning.
There you go.
I know, so I got all the information I
You got her
needed.
new email?
I have,
Okay,
I have everything, right? But see, this is this thing that we call our body and the brain that we use. All of it they're all tools.
Mm-hmm.
But what works these tools is that special you that you've arrived, you're here, and you use it. But that's the mind too. See, you said mind. Probably when you walk into the room, your mind is very active. The brain is like listening to the sounds, but your mind,
how you perceive it,
and how you perceive it, it's looking around the room for you. Making connections. I just wanted us to talk about this because here I am at 83, and I am still in search of truth. I just want to understand the whole story and how it really works. What are the truths that we need to know to live our best life, to be our best self?
Yeah, which is also cool to hear from someone who obviously, I mean, I've known you for so long, but like I don't even think of like you as like 83, and like I know, like other 83-year-olds who, and they have their way, and it's like, no, this is what I believe. This is it. And they become so stubborn. I think, there's ways to, you can age gracefully, or you can age in a way where you put a limit to yourself on what you want to learn, and you constantly push and want to learn and explore. And that's I think that's what keeps at the bottom of everybody, keeps them going. It's continuing to push, because life's about the climb, right? You get to one point, don't settle there. You have to keep climbing, whether that's even in financial goals, whatever it is. Just keep pushing yourself and wanting to grow in that direction. So you can't be stagnant once you get to a comfortable spot, because that's where you're going to wither away. If you go on to something else, you're not going to wither, because you're going to be pushing.
Fran, you're a role model for Justin and I, but even for people listening, they just think you're fantastic. And
thank you.
I have there's another neighbor not far from here, and I was talking to him one day, and he's maybe the same age as you. He's right there. And I asked him, because he was complaining. I was like, do you just want to be like an angry old man? That's there. And he just looked at me, kind of paused, and his eyes almost looked really honest for a moment. And he just went, yeah, I do. And I was like, well, I can't help you then.
That's right.
If that's what you're choosing to be, man,
No. And you wonder why. What made him like that?
That's a whole other discussion.
Maybe he will change.
So it's a form of habit too.
Needs to listen to the podcast.
If it is someone like they've done the same things over and over again, and it's like any thought that's different from what they're doing right now, it's like, no, I don't have the time for it. They kind of stonewall themselves from growth in other areas. It's like, you don't have to go out and run around and do things, but it's like you can learn something new. Go even go buy, like, I wouldn't say a book, but like, yeah, you could.
Library card.
We're going to
Right.
Bring it back to libraries.
Right. Well, tell me about the Franmail.
Okay. This one, I was with a friend the other day, and they've been enjoying the show.
Good.
And obviously you're a very positive force in the world. But he wanted to know if you have any times that you're comfortable with where you have failed.
Where I have failed.
First off, Fran doesn't fail.
Yeah. Well, are we talking about students? Because
Anything.
right,
Yeah.
see, there are always those students somewhere, not many, but there are those that are not ready to listen. It's like they're asleep. And their lives are so complex. Their families are so busy that they feel sometimes that they're in the way. They're coming from families where they're divorced, and the new people in their life are jealous of them. I've heard so many stories. I've stayed after school with so many kids. And I can't always free them of the problems that they're having. That's what you can't do everything. Incest, that happens.
Oof.
A student who wrote a poem about when her mother went to work, she heard the door open down the hall, and her stepfather was going to come down the hall to get in bed with her.
Oh my God.
And I just cried. I went, of course, to the office to get help, and I know that they did everything they could, but it's hard to get into people's families and be part of what's going on there. So yes, there have been failures, but I still, when I think back on them, there were no serious ones. One of the most frightening nights of my life was when I had a call from a student. I had left that school, and it was in Glen Rock, and left a wonderful group of kids because I got a job finally in Vernon. And I really wanted to be here because driving to Glen Rock in the winter was tough. 5:15 was dangerous. And I wanted to be in the same town with my kids because they have needs, beautiful needs, family first. So I left, but I stayed in touch with this group of students, and they were marvelous kids. This one particular kid was especially close to me because his mother had died when he was just really little. And I found this out because I often had students write their own autobiographies. That always helped me to really know them. And he said, my mother never said goodbye. She went to the hospital, and it was in the night, and he was asleep, and he never got to say goodbye to his mother. And she wasn't able to do that. Well, his father was a doctor. And so he was very busy, so he had to get a nanny to live in the house. So he was coming from a different situation. Well, on this particular night, and I was teaching at Lounsbury, and I'd stayed up already pretty late grading papers, and the phone rang. And he was on the phone. I'm not even going to use his first name because in case he watches this.
I could beep out anything too.
Okay. But he called me to tell me that he was going to commit suicide. He said his dad was always gone, and his father was a very good doctor, and he was attending different meetings and conferences, and he was the speaker, and everybody, he was always gone. So he felt that he was in the way. And he didn't have anybody in his life that he felt really cared enough about him. No reason to stay.
Yeah, we got a telemarketer calling in Spanish and leaving a Spanish voicemail.
Isn't that unbelievable? I get a lot of phone calls. Okay. So on this night, when he called me and he said there was no reason for him to go on living. He was a high school student at this point. All right, so it had been several years since I had been really in touch with him. But the very fact that he called me and he wanted to be able to tell me goodbye. So I said, you are not going to tell me goodbye on the phone. I want you to wait until I get there. You and I are going to talk. I want to look into your eyes again. I want to give you a hug. I want to be with you. I said, what? Tell me how you're planning to do this. He said, well, my dad always has lots of pills in his black bag. So I've been stashing
Jesus
pills.
Christ.
I've been stashing pills. So I said, promise me. I said, I have to get dressed. I'm not dressed at this hour, but I'm going to get in my car, and you know that it's quite a drive. It's at least an hour for me to get there. And he said, I promise. I said, all right, I'm coming. And I hung up. All right, the next thing I did was call that phone number for his father. And his dad had actually treated me, so I did have that number. Okay, then I got the answering service, and I said, this is an absolute emergency. They told me that his father was in New York City at some big dinner, conference thing. And I said, no, you don't understand. You have to get this phone call to him. You have to tell him his son is in serious danger. And he's waiting for me to get there. And he's got to come home. He has to come right away. Well, then I don't think I slept all night. I did not go there that night, just so you know. I felt that I had done everything that I could possibly do. I had to teach the next day, so I had to try to rest, but I could not sleep. The next morning, I'm parking at school, and I look over, and there is the doctor in his very expensive car parked. And he got out and walked toward me and gave me a big hug, and he said, there's no way to thank you.
Wow.
He saved his son's life. And he said, I'm going to take a month off and we're going to go away. And he said, if you ever need anything, I'm here for you.
Wow.
So that was a rescue, but a very serious happening in my life. Loved a lot of kids, but the heart can love many. It only grows with each love. It's bigger.
Well, I think we'll just leave it there, Fran.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
I imagine that student and his father are very, very still thankful for you.
Well, this particular student is now a professor in a famous college in the Northeast. And his dad has retired, and they're still very close.
That's great.
That's a phenomenal story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fran.
Yeah,
thank you.
I got nothing to follow. I got nothing to follow that. And if you don't mind me asking, when his dad got home, did he take the pills, or
No,
he got there before?
He got there before. Well, see, he promised he would wait until I got there.
So instead, his father showed up.
His father showed up. His father got immediately. And so the drive from Glen Rock to New York City is about an hour and 15 minutes, maybe. No, I'm sure he left. He left immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a scary night. That was the scariest night.
I can't imagine.
It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But thank goodness this person is still here and very successful and happy. You know,
contributing, being himself, contributing to the world, and whatever his studies are.
Yes.
And that's why, if anyone listening finds himself going through a difficult time, just know that option is just never worth it, because we all have so much to offer.
Yes.
And this student in this story felt like he was just in the way, and
yes,
look what he's gone on to do with his life. That could be anyone that's in that unbelievably low point.
Yes.
So it's just never worth it.
Yeah, I mean that comes down to almost self-worth too, because now you're looking at how others perceive you versus how do you perceive yourself, and you can create a path away from what you're currently in, no matter what it is.
No matter what it is,
you can create a path to.
You need to realize that you are very valuable. We want you here.
Mm-hmm.
We need you.
Absolutely.
Is there any other mail that we should answer?
None that needs to be answered.
Okay.
I think that was powerful enough. We can.
How you answered that was cool, because that was the kid thing. He was a failure, and you stepping in to, in a sense, be a savior. So
it was a night I will never forget, and it could have gone another way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's easy to watch as you were retelling the story. You're also reliving it.
Oh gosh, every time I think of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think of it very often, but when you talk about the failure thing, see, when I knew this young man, he was like 3 years younger. And I always do this whole thing about recognizing who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But he somehow, in the years after I left him, and I came here, and his life got very complicated, and he didn't feel that he had anyone to talk to. I wish he had called me sooner, on another day, just to talk, but he waited to say goodbye.
Yeah. I think it's also too, it's crazy, like nowadays how like common like kids are like hurting themselves and like committing suicide. It's also like what social media plays into it.
Yes.
It's a brutal thing. I mean, bullies now have every means to come at you from every different angle.
Yes.
And I think it's important to understand too, like whatever you post online, like it lives that, I mean, obviously it lives for a certain amount of time, but like it will eventually die unless someone goes out of the way to dig it up. So it's always there, but you just have to almost like
omnipresent.
Let it run its course, and just know, it's great.
Yes. Right. Well, I've enjoyed talking about attraction. And I hope that what happens is that people will start to think about some of the things we talked about.
Yeah.
And really become who they are supposed to be, and be aware.
Which will make them more attractive.
And more attractive.
Yeah.
And more aware of what attracts them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know. Well,
yes.
Just we'll remind everyone of the Army of Good assignment.
Always.
Keep doing your part to be in the Army of Good. Last week Fran, her assignment to join the Army was to write a heartfelt letter to someone.
Yes.
Anyone, give them some flowers, or if it's part of a gift, something thoughtful. I just wanted to add to that how important it is to not wait to do something like that. I have with me, I've been, life is chaotic. It's always chaotic, but I've been doing some cleaning, and
love the chaos.
I have here a postcard. When I had moved to New Mexico, I had, said goodbye to my grandma, and I'd been there, I don't know, just a little over, not even a month. And I wrote her this card just to say I'm doing well. I'll see her in October. And she passed away before I made it to her. And that crushed me for a very long time, that I didn't send it sooner. But, it was the mail, all that. So it's just so important to not wait. If you're feeling something for anyone,
And even if you do wait, I mean, there's always a level of guilt in anything, but like, you can't really change it. I mean, it is what it always, like, it is what it is, but like, try to be more, conscientious. And if you can do it sooner, do it sooner.
Yeah. I mean, it upset me, but it still does. But I spent so much time with my grandma that always kind of like, well, this was just like a minor thing. Yeah, it wasn't like, I haven't talked to you in years, get this. Yes. This was, I haven't seen you in a month. Here's a postcard.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
But write the long letters, be heartfelt, be genuine, be yourself. Yes. Thank you for listening to Tea with Fran. Keep sending in the Franmail, be it to Justin directly, myself directly. There is the Tea with Franmail at gmail.com. We've been getting a little action there. And then there's the Tea with Fran podcast on Instagram. So for those of you listening who have a question, you never know what it's going to lead to. I didn't know that failure question would lead to that, but
I didn't either.
That's the fun of it all.
Yes.
So be good to yourself, be good to others.
Till next time.
Fran, thank you for the iced tea. It's so good.
Oh, good. Good.
All right, cool.